Welcome back to Who's in Your Cloud, 21 Steps to Secure, Reliable, Trusted Technology. I'm Lauren Lev, Marketing Manager for TechOnPurpose, and we are back again for episode 12, Mobile Device Management. So what does your laptop, smartphone, refrigerator, Fitbit, and Alexa all have in common? Wrong. They are connected endpoints vulnerable to compromise by malicious actors. Given the fact that you're probably watching this from your smartphone, this is one topic of our top Cyber 21 best security practices you're not going to want to miss. But really though, you're not going to want to miss any of these episodes because what would you do without your weekly dose of me? Before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel down below. It really helps us out. And while you're here, check out our entire Who's in Your Cloud series in our playlist above. We post every Tuesday, except when we don't, to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. And get episodes delivered straight to your inbox by signing up at techonpurpose.net/blog. In 2020, there was a mass exodus from the business office to the couch office. Here we are in 2022, and businesses are still struggling to minimize risk and adapt their cybersecurity practices to this changing workforce landscape. Managing all endpoints can be a daunting task, especially with so many new devices in different locations and business owners not realizing just how wide this net really is. Without further ado, let's have our cast of cyber experts tell us more. First, we have the one and only Jim Bowers, security architect from TVI, as our VIP guest today. Jim, you've been back so often. If I didn't know it any better, I would think that you're auditioning for my job. So sit down, know your place. You might need a little bit more hair and more makeup for my job. All right. From our Jump Cloud partner, we have Principal Strategist Chase Doling. Welcome back, Chase.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
And from Cisco, we have Yispel Calzada, Systems Engineer. Good to have you again, Yispel.
Thanks for having me back, Lauren.
Of course. And of course, TechOnPurpose founder and CEO, rocking that merch, Matt Tankersley.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. I'm certain of all of our top site. Well, first off, guys, welcome back. It's good to have you. Obviously, we love each of these partners. We work with you all day, every day, as we obviously recommend most of our clients should as well. And we've got ways for you to do that. So why would you do that? Well, that's part of the reason why we're having this series. So of all of our top Cyber 21 topics, everyone can be rightly classified as a can of worms. And each one is worthy of deep thought and consideration and discussion. But we've got only 50 minutes here. So we'll get focused and into it with our cast promptly. How about that? So to get us started, let's put it into context once more. The massive migration of our workforce, Lauren talked about that, from working in the office to working from home and everywhere else. Now you mix in the influx of countless types of new devices, including BYOD devices. And we've introduced some very unique attack vectors that are ripe for malicious actors to exploit. So as companies are transitioning into these workplace strategies, these unique security challenges must be addressed. And one of the most important parts of that isn't just, do I have that device secured? How am I managing it? Right? And endpoint security is going to be looking more for malicious kind of activity going on those devices. Maybe you've got some EDR, XDR that's monitoring logs and looking for malicious activity. But how do we just sort of prevent that in the first place using some things like geographic location, right? What network am I connected to? Is it wired? Is it wireless? Is it a company device or is it my device? That's mobile device management. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And so, Lauren, I say take it away and let's kick it off to the folks that know a whole lot more than I do.
Perfect. And a whole lot more than I do too. So before we dive into it, Jim, you're up first. Remind us who you are and what you do.
Lauren, thanks again. And gosh, I love being on these video blogs, Tech on Purpose. I love you guys. Love the top 21 security, but Jim Bowers, security architect at TVI. TVI is a technology distribution organization. I'm responsible for not only providing architectural resources for our 4,000 partners, but also designing and developing our security vendor portfolio that's very relevant for these type of solutions for all of our partners. But glad to be here. Love being here. Anytime you want me here, I'll be here. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having me again.
Careful what you wish for. All right. Who is Chase Doling and what does he do at JumpCloud?
Great question. Sometimes we try to figure that out every day. But for the most part, for if those are not familiar with JumpCloud, so we're a cloud directory. But what's interesting about us is we're able to combine a lot of that cloud identity access with how we're managing devices and other resources, and helping enable a lot of organizations, either deal with remote or coming back into hybrid or whatever your flex is, right? But for us, managing those devices is crucial. We often think of it, devices are the gateway for a lot of work to be done. And so excited to dive in a little bit deeper on what that looks like.
Perfect. Isabel, you're up next.
Thanks, Lauren. So what I do at Cisco Meraki, I'm the system engineer covering all US Southeast region. So for customers that are basically looking to start, continue their IT journey on the cloud and the technical point of contact or the trust advisor that will guide them through the trial, showing how powerful and simple it is to manage and deploy their IT infrastructure for platform. For those who doesn't know what Meraki is, we deliver cloud managed IT solutions like from SD-WAN, cloud deliverable firewall, switches, IoT, cameras, access points, and of course, mobile device management solution. So basically, we optimize that IT experience, which is our main goal, to secure the locations and seamlessly connect people, places, and things.
So, Jim, help us out. Explain to our audience what mobile device management is and why should we care?
Mobile device management. So mobile device management is really the ability for an organization to put some type of controls and mechanism around mobile devices. And now really the next iteration of that is universal endpoint management, right? It's taking mobile device management and including into that our laptops, our desktops, our Windows machines, our Apple machines, and now Chromebooks and so forth, right? But it gives the ability for an organization to put some parameters and controls about it. Let me kind of talk a little further about that. And that's, let's say you want to lock down the USB port. You don't want somebody plugging a device or something into the USB port. You can do that with a mobile device management solution. Let's say, for example, like Meraki's solution, which I have deployed for a very large fast food chain that starts with a chick. I won't go any further than that, but it enables them they have a lot of employees that are out using iPads, so they can restrict what is installed on those iPads, what they can use. Maybe I can't use my camera. Maybe I don't want you taking pictures of the card, right? I learned the hard way when I started working at SecureWorks. I actually had gotten my new laptop, which had universal endpoint management on it. I decided to plug an external USB hard drive into it that had some movies because I was in Atlanta. I wanted to watch some movies. And then all of a sudden it starts encrypting my drive. So I was not able, and it corrupted my drive because I yanked it out too quick and I wasn't able to watch all my movies. So especially in today's environment with this huge influx of remote workforce, it's more critical than ever today. Simply for the fact of the huge increase of BYOD devices. Matt, you talked about it earlier. Those are devices that are corporate assigned. So this provides them some ability to provide some protection in processes and restricting things on devices they don't own. So it's a very critical component in your top 21 security.
Yes, Belle, over to you. What is your take on mobile device management?
Absolutely. So with the mobile device management, kind of like adding a little bit more what Dean says, is like allows IT to manage, secure, and deploy corporate resources and applications on any device from a single console, providing full visibility into the status of those applications that have been deployed, the data points and connections as well, while also collecting data that helps to evaluate performance metrics and execute corporate policies across the network. As we know, open endpoints these days is a threat and can become an easy target for hackers. As organizations have expanded their digital footprints to the cloud or enable remote workforces without an NDM solution, IT administrators struggle to track, update and secure all those devices that they connect to their business network. So we normally know that when we actually are on premises, our administrators trying to scan the network, and while the critical to high vulnerabilities are often prioritized, it's actually the medium or low vulnerable devices that can place your risk in your organization. So overlooking these vulnerabilities on, say, like a printer or a medical equipment or an iPhone that hasn't been upgraded lately, or other connected devices is what enables threat actors to gain entry in your network. I will say like 55% of organizations have recently reported an increase in endpoint security risk. Is one hacker infiltrates a single remote laptop, they can access an organization network file, sensitive information, data, and potentially paralyze the business. So what an MDM solution can offer, so it will increase the visibility, so obtaining a complete view of all the endpoints like Apple's iOS devices, Android devices, any device that could be owned by the company or could be as well what we normally call BYOD device, or like customers' own devices, since we know that our organization as well has expanded to or let the users to bring their own devices and connect it to the network as well. And building that resilience. So basically for corporate owned and managed systems can be deployed to a distributed workforce as organizations as well. Like I mentioned, allow those personal devices to the mix. Each one can be incorporated into the safety of the network using corporate approved policies, software, and security measures.
You just reminded me that I need to update something. So
yes.
Like note to self. Important. All right, Chase, over to you.
Well, I don't have too much to add on to that. I think just to boil it down, usually what we'll think about is it's the ability for organizations to have visibility and then take action, right? Visibility on what's happening on the device, who's on the device, who's doing what applications are there. And then the important piece of taking action, right? And this, for the most part, we're thinking about preventative action, right? So blocking USBs, encrypting drives, making sure that all of those elements are put together, but making it easy for organizations to essentially deploy that. Because when you're thinking about the evolution of MDM, right? Because typically it was like, oh, it's the traveling salespeople, don't worry about that. Like, they'll just kind of we need to like see what's happening, right? In case they leave it on a plane. But now for most organizations and I'd say, most people on the call, right? It's like, that's the only device that you have, right? And it's the only thing that's kind of given from the organization. And even though I'd say a lot of intellectual property and other things are now starting to reside on third-party apps, like there's still a lot of components that's still like the biggest attack center because it's the only one, right? It's the only thing that we have in front of us. And there might be a little bit of a mix depending on, phones and other things, or kind of if you want to think about access points coming from there. But it's just the ways for organizations kind of manage everything that they can get access to, right? And making sure that it's visible within the network so that you can start to, hopefully put a good foot forward, but then also, take reactionary measures if you need to.
So, Lauren, I think we've talked a little about what is MDM, right? And we're going to jump in as we usually do, and we're going to ask each of our cast members to tell us a little bit about their unique solution and their unique approach to MDM. And for our viewing audience, let me throw a couple of thoughts at you right now. And if any of this hasn't just clicked, because hopefully you're not doing all IT all day, every day. Hopefully you're out there running your business and, and selling dogs that get up on people's keyboards and cats and, dry cleaning and, whatever it is your business does that's not IT, right? So a lot of this stuff might fly over your head, but imagine that you've got this workforce that used to all come into the office and whatever IT infrastructure and team you had, it was all sort of contained in that building. And now you're waking up and you've got this workforce that's working in their PJs at home or from the Starbucks down the street. And they're not just using devices that you've issued, but there's other devices, right? And imagine, the idea of how quickly can you onboard them to have the applications that they need on that device to do the job, and how much data do you want them to be able to have and store on that device if it's their device versus your device? What happens when that person leaves, right? And they're no longer going to be an employee. How do you get that data off of that device and remove those applications and free up the license for the person that's going to replace that person? To the point that maybe you've got somebody out there that's, God forbid, just doing wrong things, they shouldn't be. And the ability to hit a button and instantly lock them out of that device, right? hey, I think it wasn't you, Jim. You didn't mention, we did mention theft somewhere along the way. Imagine you've got important data on a device and that device gets stolen, right? Well, there's finding that device. There's the whole insurance implications of that, different topic, different day. But imagine if you could wipe that device completely. So even though it's been compromised, the second they turn it on, it comes on, and now they're sitting there with something they won't even boot, right? That's the application for you listeners on what we're gonna be talking about MDM, and it is kind of just the tip of the iceberg. And so, Lauren, let's follow your lead. We're going to go around the room and end with Jim and talk about specific solutions that each of you brings. Jump Cloud, Chase, and Meraki, and then Jim will close us out on the topic when we get towards the end. And as always, questions, answers, jump in, guys. Let's do it.
Perfect. Okay. Before Jim and Yespel take all the good lines, Chase, you can go first and talk about Jump Cloud's solution to MDM.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple different ways that we think about it. One of the elements that make us a little bit more unique is that we cover multiple different operating systems kind of all at once, which is really helpful because most organizations, right, aren't fully Windows, aren't fully Mac. Maybe there's some Linux infrastructure there. And the beauty around Jump Cloud is we're able to manage all of those different pieces kind of within one view, leveraging our agent. So that's nice, right? But then the next piece around that is how we're able to combine identity and access management with managing those devices. So because we are also the directory, we're also having kind of that person's profile living locally on that account. And so kind of when you're thinking about it from an offboarding scenario, right, if you go to the extreme example, you can imagine that where you're removing that identity from the device, you're removing, wiping that device clean, kind of all those other pieces. But it also allows us to do some nice, like I'd say, just basic things for organizations where you're able to lay down policies like fully encrypting the drive, making sure that you're, blocking USBs, changing the background colors, like all of those different things coming from one area is really nice and easy. And I think that's one of the pieces that we spend a lot of time thinking about, because it is like, the device is the gateway for everything and for a lot of people to get their jobs done. And so if there's a way that we can trust that device, right, making sure that there's certificates on it. And we're also able to do some interesting things where you can actually change your password on the device, right? So you don't, if there's emails or spoofing, trying to like doing password changes, that you can go directly from the device level to have that done. And then finally, in terms of like getting employees in the door in the first place, right? Because a lot of us are working remotely and other things, what we're able to do is actually drop ship those things. And because our identity is already on it, you have an amazing onboarding experience where you can open up the box, you type in your Jump Cloud password, and like you have access to everything there, right? Because software has been downloaded, network access has been granted, all of those applications are there and ready for you. And so you actually team your employees up and kind of new employees for great onboarding experience while, maintaining all a seamless security flow throughout that whole process.
With that, Yespel, you're up next.
MDM with the Meraki solution, or we normally call it System Manager. Well, besides of offering the support of the variety of the platforms like iOS, like Windows, Android, tvOS, Chromebooks as well the manage of the features that you can actually set or block under the devices. What distinguishes Meraki MDM solution as well is that basically natively integrated with the Meraki portfolio. What I'm saying with that is like you can actually use like our Sentry enrollment to integrate with our Meraki access point, which enable network administrators to only allow devices that has been enrolled in System Manager to access the network, or provision using like a zero-touch deployment through our user service portal, as well as the Sentry Wi-Fi. So the settings that can be automatically pushed to the devices to allow them to connect to the wireless that has been set up or configured in the network using like certificate-based authentication or provision unique certificates without the need to manage a certificate authority, as well as Sentry VPN for those customers that already have MXs deployed and already have the use of client VPN or enable client VPN for those remote workers that can be kind of like in a hotspot connecting outside hotspot that we know how unsecure those networks are. You can actually push those configurations and provision automatically, as well as manage the AnyConnect installation for those devices to have more robust security on those. Sentry policies. So with that, network settings, such firewall rules, traffic shaping policies that already our customers has under the networks, and as well as content filtering can be dynamically changed and pushed to those mobile devices using mobile identity information, network access control, all those type of updates. And then comes what it comes as well with an MDM solution, how you can actually manage those patches for your devices, for your Windows, your Mac, how you keep your devices up to date. You can actually create profiles for your devices depending on what are the roles of the end users in your network, and you can set certain restrictions like you mentioned before, don't allow them to use cameras. Containerize the information for those applications that you are pushing to those devices, or applications that have been already installed in the device, how you allow them to share that information, and you allow them that, by example, let's say like a law firm that they are using personal devices, or you allow them to take pictures with the cameras on their devices to contracts, or what is the email attachment that they actually have stored under the device, and you allow them that other personal informations that they have for applications, allow them to access those devices to be sending out, kind of preventing that data leak. So just summarizing, with System Manager, we provide that mechanisms to prevent enterprise data from getting into their own hands.
You know, we're big Meraki flag wavers around here, and it blows my mind, Jim and Isabel, that we've not we haven't been smarter about this as it relates to your capabilities with MDM. And so we said from the beginning, Lauren, that we were going to learn in this journey as well of the Top Cyber 21, and we know we got some great partners along the way, and I love that we're learning new things about our partners at every step of the way too. So glad you're joining us, man. Well, look, we're doing a quick episode. We're short of cast members, so that always works out. We're moving quickly. We're on topic. I wish we had folks that could just call and ask us questions, but that's not our format, right? So
That's great.
Lauren, before Jim wraps us up, did you hear anything new there, or any questions that you have that might be help you do your job better and more secure, or our listening audience?
Are you calling me out?
No.
Honestly, everything in like researching the episodes, editing the episodes, and listening to you guys, everything is a learning opportunity for me. And it's genuinely helping me to become not only a better cyber safe employee, obviously my personal life or in my professional life, but in my personal life. There was a new iOS update on the iPhone, and typically I would push it off until my phone was about to explode. But now I'm right on top of these things. So it's, as the host of the show, it's been instrumental in me protecting myself as much as possible.
If you've been reading between the lines, one of the things you'll learn about these MDM platforms is that we can enforce policies like you can't access company data if you don't have this update on your device. Right? You can't access this system if you don't have your hard drive encrypted or your device encrypted, right? So Lauren, great point, man.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, I think having a patch device, right, is a secure device as well. Making sure that all of those are starting to flow through those elements of different, how you're managing that, right, and how employees can upgrade and what that looks like, and creating separate groups there is really important. Kind of as we talk about creating the foundation, but keeping it up to date is the most secure way to keep that going, right?
I'll say one more thing and then I'll send it to Jim. But the other point that you guys have brought up, I constantly lose things on a daily basis. And this makes me feel this much more okay with like losing my device, especially probably for Matt, because he's going to be the first phone call I make. So those are my two big like behavioral takeaways from today.
I think it's interesting. It's worth noting, and Jim, we'll let you close this out. We're talking about policy, right? We're talking about enforcing a policy that says you can't access this network, you can't access the device, the data, the systems, right? If you don't have these, variables in place, this version of patching, et cetera, this version of encrypting. But then the question begins, how do you go from policy to application, right?
Good. Yeah, good point.
Beautiful thing that we've had, and there's this huge convergence been happening in the marketplace for some time between traditional managed IT and secure cyber management, right? And so we've been providing our clients for years patch management technologies for their Windows endpoints in particular, and now Macs and so forth. And Jump Cloud's a huge enabler of MDM, Apple management in that regard. But yeah, I'm anxious to see, and as I learn more about each of your technologies, I see an eventual obsolescence of the older patch management tools, as we're seeing the folks that have developed MDM platforms actually move beyond policy into enforcement and application. I'm gonna monitor these trends, guys, and hopefully that's on the roadmap for you guys, if it's not already there.
I think MDM is going to evolve, right? Universal Endpoint Management, simply for the fact of, let's look at how the workforce is. I really don't think we're going to go back to pre-pandemic levels. I think we're going to continue with work from anywhere solutions. I've got one of these. So what we're starting to see is we're getting phablets, right? We're getting the phones that open up. Apple's coming out with. So we're going to start using these devices and these type of devices more. And we need to be able to have those controls around them, right? Also, let's think it's what's about to happen. And we all know security is a constant cat and mouse game. But I think a bigger thing that's getting ready to happen where mobile device management is going to be more critical is, let's look at 5G. Let's look at ultra capacity. Let's look at ultra wideband. I could sit here in my house and get a gig wireless to my phone. And what does that mean? That means all that traffic that was traversing across a fiber line or a copper line or a cable line that was coming out from our house is now going to move up to the Wild Wild West, out in the open, out in the wireless arena. So now I've got more chances to get man in the middle, right? It was a little harder for me to do that on a physical line, but now that data is moving out. So having stringent controls around that mobile device or that iOS or that iPad, Chromebook, I almost don't even need to open my MacBook. I literally can do everything I want to do on my Android device or my Samsung tablet. I do have a MacBook. Everybody's going Android and Mac, but not completely sold in with Apple. I love Apple MacBook, but I don't like iPhone. And that's me being a hacker. I can do more with my Android. But, I will say this, that I think this is such a critical piece of the top 21, simply for like when I used to do red team testing, one thing inherent with devices is they have to, typically the USB port has to be open to allow to plug keyboards in, to plug printers in, to plug all that stuff. And it's so easy for me to take a little USB jump drive, plug it in, emulate that keyboard, make you think I'm a keyboard, and the next thing you know, I'm going all out throughout your network. So having that functionality of being able to lock down, have that functionality to be able to check for patches, to check if you have certain applications installed, is going to be critical moving forward because it's just going to continue to grow. And that remote workforce continue to grow, and it's going to be a critical part in somebody's defensive depth approach.
Love that. Learn more about USB management capabilities in episode 8 on Zero Trust. Isabel, final thoughts. How do we make folks understand how important this is and how much they should reach out to Tech on Purpose to learn more about Meraki MDM?
I would say the challenges that they have today. We touch a couple of points here in the sense like right now where the corporations stand for with this remote work or hybrid environment. An endpoint, we use endpoints more often. We use like laptops, we use phones to basically keep working from home or from any part of the world. So the challenge that you come in are all your devices up to date? Are your corporate policies to access your internal resources, or not just your internal resources, or your hosted cloud applications that you already have are secure, are enforced on those endpoints? So those type of questions are the ones that bring people to think what they have been using and when they need to start using and the importance of the MDM. And I always say, go contact any specialist, come to us, to Jump Cloud, Meraki, MDM, any specialist with an MDM solution, and talk about what are your challenges today with your IT and how they actually manage or able to manage those endpoints, or how secure are your endpoints.
Yeah, let's keep going around the room, and I'm gonna add to that. I will tell you, this came up this week. For years, we've seen people literally this week. We've seen people in traditional enterprises and SMBs go, we're Windows shop, Windows, right? And now they've got a workforce that's going, man, I want a Mac, or they're Macs and they want Windows or whatever it is. And we are definitely dealing with a lot of Linux folks as well. And I can tell you the traditional, for all of those SMBs that are out there already trying to be what they are, right? Trying to add in a multi-OS platform, cross-platform environment is going to really stretch you beyond what you've already got. That's going to increase your need to work with folks like TechOnPurpose from a managed service provider perspective. And these are the tools that we are used to help you really simplify that project, and that process. So yeah, you got to have, the world is not just one thing anymore. It really isn't.
Absolutely. And I think one piece that I would add on to that is, just like all elements of security, right? There, you kind of have a layered approach. And I think one of the pieces that we're starting to see much more is, hopefully the adoption of multi-factor authentication, right? Kind of throughout that. But one element that JumpCloud has is because we're managing that device and we also have our own push MFA, we're actually able to kind of have that level of control at the device level as well, right? So if you want to take it to that nth degree, right, make sure you are who you are no matter where you are. That's the best way to kind of enforce those elements of policies, right? But then you always want to think about what are the conditions that you should go through and access, kind of in addition to maintaining a really good baseline of, I have policies put in place, I have antivirus put around it, all the kind of, say, safeguards that as much as you can take within the device, right? Including keeping it up to date, having all those elements, and then kind of taking it a little bit further, making it sure, right? Because it's like, again, this is the only thing you got. This is the only device kind of in front of us for the most part, and making sure that connection between, if it's coming from the device or kind of any other areas, right, into those target applications, that you're doing it through a secure route.
Matt, I think we should I'm going to come up with a new brand, Meraki Jump, because I like both Meraki and I both like JumpCloud. But I will say another thing about MDM solutions is, let's think about the IT shortage problem. Matt, you touched on MSPs outsourcing. There is a huge IT shortage problem, not just in cybersecurity, but having an MDM UEM solution will streamline and efficiencies for that poor IT guy that's overtasked. It'll enable him to do his job more effectively and not deal with as much stuff of when a laptop goes bad or worrying about when it's lost and erasing it and onboarding. All of those mundane factions that the MDM device can automate will create that overtaxed IT guy, give him a little breathing room, right? So that's another benefit of having this MDM UEM solution as well.
I have a phrase for that. It's work smarter, no harder. So
There you
basically, it's what an MDM solution will allow them to do.
Yeah. Hey, listen, business owners and SMBs out there. I had a nightmare situation with a client recently where we see an IT team. They're limited with resources. Let's be clear, they're one guy, and they're managing multiple endpoints, dozens and dozens of endpoints across dozens of cities, and it's impossible to do that well. It's impossible to do that securely without the right layered security and management approach. And we actually had a situation in the last month where a business owner kind of came in and said, why am I seeing all these extra expenses and everything? And he didn't understand it. And it was not what he was used to from 20 or 30 years of industry. And he didn't value the cost. He doesn't value the risk that he's putting himself in. And he literally unplugged all this stuff and said, we're going to do all this in-house with our one guy. Back to what we were just talking about, our one guy. We can't give that much control to somebody else. That is a horrific, tragic choice in this day and age, guys. If you are running multiple devices and multiple endpoints, do not rely on yourself. Do not rely on one IT guy. It is not okay. It's not going to end well for you.
Yeah, and Matt, one more thing I want to throw in there, if you don't mind. Lauren should have never told me I wasn't talking too much, because I'm going to make up for it. Cyber insurance, let's stress that. We already see, I think Chase talked about multi-factor. I see it consistently. Cyber insurance companies are not renewing policies, or premiums are going up. I would really see this as being another requirement, especially with the continued work from anywhere. I would easily see cyber insurance saying you better have a UEM or MDM on any device for any remote worker. So I would not be surprised if we don't start to see these type of stipulations put in place by cyber insurance as well.
Yeah, we're seeing that. We're seeing that across the board. I'm surprised we haven't seen this one, in fact. And you go back to episode 4 on IAM, Identity and Access Management, which includes multi-factor authentication. I believe, Chase, you were on that one with us for all the right reasons. Man, it's if there's one thing I can tell our listening audience, if you're confused by all of the options and you're worried about the costs, well, let me tell you, it costs a whole lot more to deal with a compromise. We're talking business ending stuff and life ending stuff. But there's one thing that you're going to do, guys, and I'm going to flash back to 4, but implement MFA. I think the statistic is like 98% of compromises are cut short by using MFA. Right? It doesn't mean they don't happen. It just means that they're 98% less likely to happen, from my understanding of the data that's in the industry. Implement MFA, guys. And then if you got devices and you got workforce, we need to talk MDM and everything else in the top Cyber 21. So, Lauren, I think that's all I've got. You guys did a great job. I'm all ears for any closing comments. It's a great episode, great topic. Folks, thanks for listening in. I think Lauren's going to close us out. And as always, we're grateful for each of you guys and showing up and helping us educate our marketplace on how to be secure, reliable, and trusted in the adoption of their technology.
All right. That is mobile device management. As always, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Always good to chat cybersecurity with you. And I know you'll always keep it sassy and savvy. Next week, we're on to network security. Experts say that damage from cybercrime has now outpaced the world's yearly cost of natural disaster damage at $6 trillion. I don't know about you, but I do not, unfortunately, have $6 trillion laying around. So you don't think it can happen to you or your company, but in today's world, it's not a matter of if, but when cyber criminals will take advantage of your cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Next week, we'll be discussing how fortifying your network security will help protect your business from a disaster. Again, remember to like and subscribe and see all of our episodes on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify, and get them delivered straight to your inbox by signing up at techonpurpose.net/blog. To start a free trial from Cisco or JumpCloud, and not the bouncy house kind, email us at freetrials@who'sinyour.cloud and sign up for our free cybersecurity risk assessment at who'sinyour.cloud. Well, that is all for us today. We have to thank my very horrible co-star. Where are they? For joining us today. You had a lot to say. There she is. Got a lot to say about cybersecurity and mobile device management, especially with all the pictures I take of it. Where is she? There she is.
There she is.
So bad. She's getting a timeout after this. Okay, well, that is all for us today, and we will see you all next week.